These savings are crazy. The Steam Summer Sale is live, and here are giant savings and deals you need to know about. Hello, everybody. It's your boy, Jmulls, and let's get some savings. What is fantasy? That is the question Metaphor Refantazio sets out to answer in this absolute journey of a game. To me, this is Atlus's magnum opus, blending the press-turn combat system from Shin Megami Tensei with the social simulator and calendar systems of Persona in one package made unique with its brilliant fantasy aesthetic that often reminds me of a Ghibli movie in all the right ways. Great characters, music, and set pieces combined with a progression system that makes the game feel like an Atlus JRPG, but unique in its own way. You play as Will. You can call them whatever, I called him J Makoto on stream, and you are a candidate for the throne of Uchronia. You, with your ever-growing list of companions, travel the country for the Tournament for the Throne, a series of challenges to win favor with the masses to determine who will become the next king. All the while, you investigate the death of the previous king and seek revenge on the Kingslayer. It's a grandiose epic that to me is easily one of my favorite games that I've ever played. The side dungeons are a letdown, but it's mainly because I wanted to explore the world even more. The art in this game is fantastic, and the rest of the game more than makes up for that, especially with how compelling the story is and fun the gameplay is. There's also a prologue demo where you can play the pretty dang long prologue for yourself, and if you enjoy it enough, hear your progress over to the full game. Metaphor Refantazio is 60% off for $27.99. Let fantasy live another day. Growing up, I was a big fan of Crysis 2 on the Xbox 360, and if you've been craving a good old-fashioned Xbox 360 era first-person shooter game, well, the Crysis trilogy is on sale right now. From what I remember of Crysis 2, it packed really fun and satisfying gameplay and level design, alongside some really cool and interesting suit powers. It was just a really well-constructed game with very interesting enemies to fight, and you just kind of felt awesome playing it, honestly. If you need a blast from the past, then I'll absolutely recommend Crysis. Brag to your friends that your PC can run Crysis, and you can pick up the Crysis Remastered Trilogy for 60% off for $19.78.
Book! How dare you!
NieR Replicant is easily one of my favorite games of all time for a whole host of reasons. One of the reasons I love NieR so much as a franchise is how unashamed it is at being a video game. It doesn't view it as a demerit or something it needs to overcome. It embraces the fact that it's a video game to further and just flat out tell its story. And when it comes to Replicant itself, easily one of the best character casts I've ever seen. Like from top to bottom, every one is a banger. Even some of the most minor side quest characters, they can get some real tears out of you. It's a beautifully written game from top to bottom, with amazing locations, really fun boss fights, and even if the side quests are a little bit grindy, I'll be honest, I don't mind doing them just because it gives me more of an opportunity to hang out with the cast. Some of the best banter I've seen in a video game outside like Persona 4 Golden, we'll get to that one, and it's all paired with a combat system that's like a hack and slash action RPG, but the unique twist is that you get this flying book companion that casts a whole bunch of magic for you. It's really cool and satisfying. Like giant magic missiles or spears that come out of the ground or just punching people with magic hands, or summoning a vortex of swords and blades that carve your opponents apart like a cheese grater that also poisons them. It's so fun, man. You play as NieR, and you see NieR has a younger sister, but there's a problem. She has this debilitating disease known as the Black Scrawl, and after finding the mysterious Grimoire Vice, you set out on a journey to save your little sister. And I know that sounds rather simple, but trust me, this game and this story is anything but. The people that made NieR are absolutely crazy, and I love that for them. NieR Replicant is 60% off for $23.99. Remember how I said NieR Replicant was one of my favorite games of all time? Well, NieR Automata is my favorite game of all time. And a big reason for that is because, to me, it's like a more refined Replicant, which is kind of what you would hope for out of a sequel. It learns a lot of lessons from Replicant, and I think this game really nails the pacing. Very similar gameplay to Replicant, but instead of the fantasy and magical aesthetic that Replicant presented, this is post-apocalyptic. You're playing as androids, you got like a robot pod companion that's shooting laser beams and holographic hammers to slam down your enemies and send them flying like your Barry Bonds in the bottom of the ninth. This also applies to Replicant, but my god, the soundtrack is world class. There's a reason it's become so iconic. NieR's one of those stories where you can approach it from a very surface level and have a truly captivating and memorable time with it, but if you're willing to dig a little bit deeper, the layers upon layers you can unravel, it's incredible. It simply is. Taking place in the far future, Earth has basically fallen to alien machine life forms. You play as 2B and 9S, robotic androids of Yorha, that fight on behalf of humanity trying to reclaim the Earth from the absolute onslaught of the machine life forms. It's a game to me that is the best breakdown of the human condition I've ever seen. And it's not just a game that's deep and philosophical, it's also just a ton of fun, man. You're fighting giant robots, sometimes controlling flying robots, piloting aerial units. The boss fights are truly incredible and fun, and how many times can I say memorable before it gets old? I mean, just like every element of this game is a straight up home run. There's a reason it's my favorite game of all time. I love it so much. NieR Automata Game of the Yorha Edition is 60% off for $15.99. Become as gods, become as gods. And now for something completely and truly different. Persona 4 Golden is honestly tied with Metaphor Refantazio for my favorite Atlas game. This probably nudges it out. And it's not because of gameplay or anything like that. The vibes to Persona 4 Golden are truly immaculate. It's one of those games where no matter what, I can come back to Persona 4 Golden and I'm going to smile. And a game that is able to do that, I do think that means something. The premise for the game is also really good. You move to this small town in Japan and you move in with your uncle who's a police detective, but there's a series of mysterious murders going about the town, and when you discover a whole other world behind TVs, you form your own investigation team to find out what's truly going on with the murders. And yeah, that stuff is compelling, but my god, man, the characters of Persona 4 Golden make it all worth it. The voice acting of Golden, this gets changed in Revival, and honestly, this is one of the main reasons I'm recommending Golden. I'm kind of optimistic for the VO for Revival, but Golden is hard to beat, man. The line delivery, the execution, the humor, the comedy. When this game wants you to feel emotional, it's able to do everything it can to make you feel exactly how they want you to. I don't think I've ever laughed out loud and as hard at another game like I have throughout Persona 4 Golden. I don't think it's happened. It's also just really fun. It's Persona, man. Yeah, the dungeons are kind of linear and a little bit blah. And sure, some of the side quests you can choose to do are pretty freaking dull, but the characters, the setting, the tone, the vibe, the atmosphere, the main story, again, the characters, it makes it so worth it. And again, the soundtrack for Persona 4 Golden is truly elite. Some of the best songs I've ever heard just come from this game. Backside of the TV, Heaven and Snowflakes being some of my favorite. Man, this game is so good. Persona 4 Golden is 50% off for $9.99. Did you know Persona 4 had a sequel? Yeah, for some reason, they made a fighting game sequel to the story of Persona 4. You could call it a spin-off, but really, the story is just a straight-up sequel. They also reintroduced a bunch of the cast from Persona 3 as well. So if you're fresh off of Persona 3 Reload and you played Persona 4 Golden, if you don't mind a fighting game, I highly recommend checking out Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. The story's really good, the comedy's on par with original Persona 4 in my opinion. I'm not too knowledgeable about fighting games, but its arc system works for those who want to know, and it has some really cool and funny moments. It packs two different stories into one, Persona 4 Arena and then Arena Ultimax. It has quite a few different routes, and if you are a fan of Persona, I highly recommend checking this one out. Persona 4 Arena Ultimax is 70% off at $8.99. Now let's talk about a game that I haven't played myself, but it's going to be probably the game that I pick up. Ys Chronicles Plus 1 and 2. I have semi-recently become a massive fan of the Trails series, and Neon Felicum has this other franchise called Ys. I've also been recently playing this game called The Adventures of Elliot from Square Enix, and I keep getting told the gameplay is very much in the style of Ys, and from what I've seen, it looks super fun. I personally don't mind an old game, and this one it looks satisfying in all the right ways. I love the creature design, and the combat itself looks simple but wholly satisfying. I'm really looking forward to trying it out for myself. Also, I really like the art they are able to weave into the UI here. Kind of reminds me of like old school Diablo. I'll probably dive into this game after I beat Trails in the Sky the 3rd, but I am looking forward to Ys. It looks right up my alley. Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus, oh that's the name, is 70% off for $4.49. Look, there's been a lot of talk lately, especially after the GTA 6 news, of gaming becoming unaffordable for a lot of people. But nobody has played every game that has come out, and sometimes going back into the past, especially with Steam sales like this, you can find some absolute gems. For instance, Mass Effect is one of the most beloved trilogies of RPGs that are out there, and we really don't get many like sci-fi RPGs nowadays. I haven't played the series myself outside of a bit of Mass Effect 1, but I enjoyed what I played of it. And if you haven't played Mass Effect yourself, you can easily dump so many hours into this trilogy. And considering how inexpensive it is right now at this Steam sale, I think it goes to show that you don't only have to play the latest and greatest that comes out of like AAA. Just because a game is old doesn't mean it's not amazing, and you can get some absolutely insane deals. The reason I'm hopping on about this for Mass Effect Legendary Edition specifically is because for how beloved Mass Effect is, for how many people that have absolutely fallen head over heels with this universe, there are still a lot of people that haven't played these games, myself included. And for how many hours you can get in this game, it's 92% off for $4.79. That is an insane value proposition. In the mid to late 2010s, so many games clearly wanted to just be Titanfall 2. I guess you could also argue Titanfall 1 there, but Titanfall 2's campaign is easily one of the best FPS campaigns that I've ever played, and it's really the only game in this style that I've ever enjoyed that puts movement and fast-paced FPS gameplay at the forefront. For a game that is really known for its giant robots, right? You would think not being in the giant robot would be boring in comparison to being in the giant robot. And don't get me wrong, the robot's cool and all, but the movement, the tech, the gameplay you have for just running and gunning, they struck the perfect balance when it comes to this game's gameplay and pacing. The wall running, the sliding, the movement you have as the pilot, the level design, man, my god, it works so well with the gameplay. And then when you get into the giant robot, there's a great sense of progression as the game goes on and you unlock different modes and like loadouts for your giant robot, called a Titan in this game, get it? With Titanfall being the name, that vary up the gameplay, always keep you on your toes, and it just works, man. There's kind of a rule for older FPS campaigns when it comes to replayability. You don't need to give the player a whole bunch of rewards for just playing the game a bunch of times. If your gameplay loop is simply fun and satisfying and just that engaging, and you give the player enough options, that itself does far more than just what any reward ever could. Titanfall 2 is one of those campaigns I will look forward to coming back to for years to come. It's just that good. The story is nothing overly complex or anything, right? You find a giant robot, you befriend the giant robot, and you fight a bunch of bad guys. Yeah, it's a little bit more in-depth than that, but I'll be honest, it really nails that premise. Like, the robot's so fun. I love the main character. The set pieces you just experience throughout this game, alongside the gameplay, they nailed it, man. They really did, and I wish this game got way more love. I also wish the game didn't have the worst release schedule I've ever seen. Oh my god, they did not give this game any favors. But that shouldn't matter to you because you can just play this gem right now. Titanfall 2 Ultimate Edition is 85% off for $4.49. Was it the best idea that I've ever had to play this game on my old PC that could barely run it? No, there's really no follow-up to that. That just wasn't a good idea, but I did enjoy what I did play of it. And we're talking about the Dead Space remake. Look, EA is stupid, we all know that. And while I'm not sure which is more dead, the Dead Space franchise or the Destiny franchise, there's a reason so many people enjoy and love Dead Space as a franchise overall. Yeah, sure, it nails the horror elements, right? But man, the gameplay's so fun. Even the bits that I did play of it back on my old PC, targeting the limbs and just blowing them off, the tension this game is able to instill in every scene, they really did knock it out of the park. And the funniest thing about all of this, the remake is cheaper than the original game on Steam right now. I don't recall ever seeing that phenomenon before. The Dead Space remake is 90% off for $5.99, but the original Dead Space is 60% off for $7.99. Then Dead Space 2 is 80% off for $3.99, and Dead Space 3 is 80% off for $3.99. Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 Revelations is on the way early next year, and if you want to get started, play the original Final Fantasy VII, but after you're done with that, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth are both on sale right now, and they definitely have their faults, don't get me wrong, but I do think it's one of those cases where the pros outweigh the cons. These games are gorgeous, they are super dang fun, I love the combat system, where it's a blend of the ATB system of old, but with real-time combat. It looks spectacular, it feels really good, each character plays differently, but they're all fun in their own way, and they synergize greatly with each other as well. And if you're a big fan of Final Fantasy VII and you just want more of it, that's what Remake really does provide. It fleshes out the game and expands on areas, sometimes when it probably shouldn't, but in a lot of other times it just makes me care about more parts of the world for Final Fantasy VII. I love the vibe, I love the characters, I adore the characters of Final Fantasy VII. The game is absolutely gorgeous, the soundtrack is great. Yeah, some of the mini games kind of suck, but a lot of the other ones are really dang cool and fun. I love dolphin riding in Rebirth. And you know how it was a joke for The Witcher 3 that people played that game just for Gwent? Well, insert the same joke for Rebirth when it comes to Queen's Blood. That card game is addictive, and it's so in-depth as well. There's plenty of time until Revelations comes out, and if you want to get up to speed, again, my opinion, play the original game first and also Crysis Core, then play Remake and Rebirth. You don't have to. That would be my recommendation though. Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate is 65% off for $13.99. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is 60% off for $19.99. Or you can get the Twin Pack, which contains both games, for 60% off for only $31.99. That's insane value. I know this is hard to believe, but we're getting a new Witcher 3 expansion entitled Songs of the Past, and it's due to come out in 2027. So if you either need a refresher for The Witcher 3 or you haven't played the series before, first off, play The Witcher 2. Second off, the series and also The Witcher 3 are on sale right now, and the value proposition for this game, it's mind-blowing. And we circle back to what we were talking about with Mass Effect, whereas the price to game nowadays is getting higher and higher, a lot of these older gems, you can get so many hours of quality game for very little money. And to me, they still hold up to this day. Like The Witcher 3 is one of the best games I've ever played. I know I'm saying that a lot in this video, but I am generally picking games that I absolutely love. It's a recommendation video after all. I'm not gonna be mean and say go play Marathon or something like that, right? I value your time way more than that. The Witcher 3 is a giant sprawling RPG, and you play Geralt of Rivia, a witcher, a mutated monster hunter, and throughout The Witcher 3, you are on a quest to find your lost disciple, Ciri. It's a giant sprawling open world filled with different monsters to hunt, a whole bunch of great quests to do, and like some of the side quests, it's like CD Projekt Red. The reason so many people were excited for Cyberpunk was because of what they did with The Witcher. Some of the side quests in The Witcher 3 are better than a lot of other games' main stories. And while a lot of people have only played The Witcher 3 because it's great, I also fully recommend going back to The Witcher 2. It's still big in its own way, but it's definitely a downscaled version of what The Witcher 3 provides, and for some people that'll be a benefit because The Witcher 3 is a bit too open for some people. This one's way more focused, but in my opinion still retains pretty much all the strengths of the third game. It's super fun, it holds up great, and it's also really replayable because there's a giant choice that takes place early on in the game that changes so much of the game. It's basically two different routes. So whether you're preparing for the next Witcher 3 expansion, I can't believe we're still saying that in 2026, or you're preparing for The Witcher 4, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is 90% off for $3.99. Or you can get the complete edition, which comes with the two DLCs, Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone, for 80% off for $9.99. Or this is the crazy one, you can get the Witcher Trilogy. Yeah, the first game's pretty aged, but still, 2 and 3 are awesome and hold up to this day for 88% off for only $7.62. I'll make this one quick. Batman Arkham Collection. What do I even need to say about the Arkham games? Some will say this is Batman at his best, exploring Arkham Asylum or just Arkham City. I played Arkham City as a kid, and even as someone who's not that big on the press-wide counter combat system, there's just something cool about playing as Batman, dude. And speaking of insane value propositions, Batman Arkham Collection, which contains Arkham Asylum Game of the Year Edition, Arkham City Game of the Year Edition, Arkham Knight, an Arkham Knight Season Pass that a whole collection is 85% off for $8.99. Or you can get Arkham Asylum for 85% off for $2.99, Arkham City 80% off for $3.99, Arkham Knight 80% off $3.99, or the Season Pass of Arkham Knight 75% off $4.99. There are cheeseburgers more expensive than all of this.
So wake up, Mr. Freeman.
I recently played through the Half-Life games, namely Half-Life 1 and 2, and yeah, I'm fully a believer now. I understand why people have been waiting for Half-Life 3 for so long. This series is phenomenal. It just gets everything right. The shooting is really fun and satisfying, there's a good amount of enemy variety, it's very visually clear, and it has a great setting. I would give you a plot synopsis for Half-Life 2, but I feel like the Steam description just does a great job by itself. The 7-hour war is lost. Earth has surrendered. The Black Mesa incident is a distant memory. The player again picks up the crowbar of research scientist Gordon Freeman, who finds himself on an alien-infested Earth being picked to the bone. Its resources depleted, its populace dwindling. Freeman is thrust into the unenviable role of rescuing the world from the wrong he unleashed back at Black Mesa, Half-Life 1, and a lot of people he care about are counting on him. It's so good, man. And I think it's one of those games where it definitely feels aged in places, but the mechanics of both of the games are so fun and satisfying that they're an instant recommendation. For me, Half-Life 2, I enjoyed it on stream, but then after stream, I went back to it and I just started playing through it again. And that's when I truly fell in love with it. And that's when it went from a game that I thought was really good to, oh, I understand why some people say this is one of the best games of all time. I get it now. And for me, the only FPS games that I think I've enjoyed more than Half-Life at this point are the Bungie Halo games. They nail the tone and the atmosphere. They vary the pacing up frequently with different levels, different kinds of levels, different environments, different aesthetics, different types of enemies. Some areas like focus far more on the horror side of things. Some are more bombastic and just cool, running and gunning. In Half-Life 2, you're like piloting boats with machine guns on it or buggies, and it's just really dang cool. Sure, there are a few parts that really frustrate me, but they're very few and far between. And I absolutely adore the premise behind the game. The fact you're just playing as a theoretical physicist named Gordon Freeman that just put on an HEV suit and just said, screw it, I'll do it myself, and then became an absolute badass. There's a certain charm and vibe that I get out of a lot of Valve games that you can immediately pick up on at a glance and at a distance and just say, that's a Valve game. And to me, that's a positive. I love the physics engine as well going on here, especially with the grav gun. Just being able to pick up saw blades and throw them at enemies and watch them just get carved in twain. It's so dang fun. I do kind of miss the alien weapon from Half-Life 1 when I'm playing Half-Life 2, but the weapon sandbox of Half-Life 2 is so well balanced and constructed overall that I don't particularly mind it in the moment. And I love the alt fire a lot of the weapons have. The submachine gun be able to just have a noob tube at the moment's notice, the shotgun firing 2 different rounds. It's so dang good. It gets every core fundamental of an FPS game right. And it's from start to finish. From the beginning of Half-Life 1 through the 2 DLCs into Half-Life 2 and its DLCs. Just from start to finish, gets it right. The story is engaging. Truly, this is one of the best game franchises that I've ever played. Half-Life 2, which contains its DLCs, Episode 1 and Episode 2, is 80% off for only $1.99 for one of the best games ever. That's insane. Or you can get the Half-Life Complete Bundle, which has Half-Life 1 and its DLCs, Half-Life 1 Source, which I haven't played, and also, weirdly enough, throw in Team Fortress Classic. That bundle, 80% off for $5.34. Or you can get Half-Life by itself for 80% off for $1.99, or the Half-Life 1 Anthology for 80% off for $2.71. If you were to ask me what is Stellar Blade, I would say it's a game very much inspired by the gameplay loop of Sekiro, but with the aesthetic and tone of NieR Automata. Now that's right up my alley, and I think it's a really good version of both of those things. But at the same time, it does a good job providing its own identity with everything. The combat is very much based on parrying and dodging, but they also give you a bunch of really cool abilities to use alongside those elements that it makes every fight, every engagement, and especially every boss fight really fun, where you're just at the edge of your seat. Seriously, back when I played the demo, I must have done the boss fights they provided so many times just because I wanted to try different things. I wanted to get better at the game. They really nailed the gameplay loop because for me at least, it's one of those loops where sometimes you just want to replay a boss fight because you feel like you can do it better, where you enjoy the act of getting good. Everything looks great, game sounds amazing, the soundtrack's incredible, and the story starts out a little bit slow, but as the game goes on, it really picks up until you get near the end, and it's something that is truly memorable. In the world of Stellar Blade, you play as Eve, sent down to Earth to combat the Netiba, the monsters for the game, and they range in size from small little guys to, oh my god, he's bigger than a skyscraper. Earth is basically overrun by these guys, and humanity's on the back foot. But as you progress the story and you get further and further into it, the pieces of the puzzle don't fit together, and now it becomes your job to find out what's truly going on. I am definitely looking forward to Blood Rain. There is a demo. It may not be the biggest discount of the day, but if you've been wanting an excuse to play Stellar Blade, it's 33% off for $40.19.
I see fire in those eyes.
Bravely Default deserves all the love of the world. This is one of Square Enix's best RPGs, and that is saying something.
Say that you'll stay till the very end.
Easily one of the best job systems I've ever seen in a game. One of the craziest plot twists I've ever seen in a game. And I know a lot of people will be off-put by the art style of the game, but it's the visual equivalent of an earworm, where when it gets into your head, it won't get out. I'll show some gameplay from my Switch 2 playthrough, but it is on Steam now. Like I said, the job system is absolutely phenomenal and just gives you a level of customization and character progression that so many other games wish they could replicate. It's super simple, but it's so clean. Where over the course of the game, you unlock a whole bunch of new jobs, you play those jobs on your characters, and you unlock the ability to use that job's abilities and passive abilities on other jobs as well. So you're just expanding your repertoire as the game goes on and giving yourself way more options, and you build each character the way you want them to be built. And while a lot of people will talk about how good the gameplay is of Bravely Default, for good reason, it's phenomenal, the story is so dang good. I found myself head over heels with the four main characters and just the world that this game takes place in. The world of Bravely Default is on a knife's edge. One day, a giant chasm just opened up in the world, and it swallowed up protagonist Tiz's younger brother. So he teams up with Agnes, the Vestal of Wind, Idea, and Ringabel to go on a quest to reawaken the crystals to hopefully save the world. While the premise may sound a little bit generic, trust me, this story is anything but. And I can't say anything else in fear of spoiling, but what I will say, I went into this game's story with the lowest of expectations and expected this game to largely just be a vehicle for gameplay. I was so glad to be wrong. The gameplay's phenomenal, don't get me wrong, but the story is just as good. You know what? In fact, it is also phenomenal. It was originally a 3DS game, I think, and then the original version of Flying Fairy HD was only on the Switch 2, but now that it's on Steam, you got no excuse. If you're a fan of JRPGs whatsoever, this game definitely deserves your time. I simply love it so much. Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, that's a mouthful, is 30% off for $27.99. Speaking of games that I love, Armored Core 6. I know FromSoft are largely known for Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring, and Sekiro nowadays, but when I grew up, it was Armored Core, and you have no idea how happy I was when they brought Armored Core back. And when Armored Core 6 came out, it was so dang good! You pilot a giant robot called an Armored Core, and over the course of the game, you are exposed to a really good story, a whole bunch of really interesting levels, and you progress your giant robot, your Armored Core. You customize them, you buy new weapons and parts and components from the shop, you throw them onto your Armored Core, and you make your own build. There's a certain sense of scale when it comes to FromSoft games, and Armored Core 6 is by no means an exception here. They create these set pieces that are larger than life, and for a giant robot that you're piloting, it just creates this excellent use of perspective, especially with how fun the combat is, and the gunplay, and just how tight the movement feels. I yearn for the day when FromSoft revisits Armored Core and puts out another game. I was blown away with Armored Core 6, and if you haven't tried it for yourself, just play it. It is such an absolute gem of a game. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, the standard edition, is 50% off for $29.99. Trails in the Sky First Chapter is the game that started it all. Trails is one of the longest running JRPG series out there, and the main thing that sets Trails apart is that the entire series tells the story of a world, but each sub-series expands on one corner of that world. Trails in the Sky First Chapter is a remake of the first Trails game. Set in the country of Liberal, you play as Estelle Bright, who becomes a junior bracer alongside her stepbrother, Joshua Bright, as they travel the country of Liberal, performing various deeds and fulfilling various guild requests. All the while, they start to uncover some grand conspiracy that threatens to upend the entire country of Liberal and possibly the world. What I love about Trails in the Sky so much is the charm, humor, and color of the game. It has phenomenal characters, and with this being a remake, it has amazing cutscenes as well, but also just the animations in combat are just so dang fun to look at. While the game may not be plot heavy, it puts a lot of pieces on the game board to be expanded on later in the series, but what keeps your attention is the 2000s anime charm and just how good the characters are. Some of the most heartwarming and just enjoyable characters that I've ever seen. And we are getting a remake of the second chapter game, which is the sequel, later this year in September. So if you want to get on board now, now's as good a time as any. But the combat system in this game is also super addictive. It's a turn-based combat system where you move each character around the field to position them for appropriate arts and crafts. The remake also brings real-time combat into the fold. As you explore the overworld and you encounter enemies, you can use the real-time combat to either weaken them or just straight up kill them if the enemies are weak enough. This helps prevent that awkward transition to turn-based combat when you're just needing to use one ability to kill an enemy because you're way overleveled, and helps keep the game feeling like it's flowing moment to moment. It's rather simple, but it kind of shines because of that, because the meat and potatoes of the game is the turn-based combat. The real-time combat's really just there to keep things moving along, and I think it does a good enough job of doing that. Arts is like the magic system in this game, and it operates a lot like old materia in Final Fantasy, where you will equip various pieces of orbments onto your characters, and having certain combinations of orbments will unlock different spells and also just stat bonuses for your characters. On top of that, each character comes equipped with character-specific abilities called crafts. This allows you to branch each character out into a playstyle that suits your interests, but also allows each character to feel unique. And I think they really get a good balance of just every different mechanic in this game. They're super dang fun and it's super satisfying and keeps you on your toes wanting more. It also just makes you excited for new characters to be added into your party because they play differently, but they're all fun in their own way, both in terms of the story and cutscenes, but also the gameplay. I also think Trails in the Sky First Chapter, I won't spoil it, but I think the ending is one of the best video game endings I've ever seen. It's just executed extremely well. If you're a fan of that 2000s era anime charm, you will probably like Trails in the Sky. Trails in the Sky First Chapter has a demo. We can play the prologue and your progress carries over when you buy the actual game, but the game itself is 50% off for $29.99. Back in my day, Ubisoft wasn't a laughingstock and they put out a bunch of really good games, one of which was Far Cry 4, a game I grew up on. It takes place in a fictional country in the Himalayas, and I just found it to be a really fun, open-world first-person shooter. I loved the vibe it had. It gave you a bunch of really cool tools and abilities to use in the game, and I thought the story was also really captivating. I wouldn't call it the best story of all time or anything like that, but it's good enough to keep you engaged with the product wanting more. It has a lot of that charm old Ubisoft games really had back in the day. And a little fun fact about this game is you can actually beat it really quickly if you just sit around and do nothing in the intro. It's a game that has a really cool, just overall setting, but it's also able to have fun with that setting. So if you have a craving for that old Ubisoft style of game, and you're more disillusioned with what they put out nowadays, and you haven't played Far Cry 4, or you just haven't played it in so long, I mean, now is good a time as any to go back and relive this masterpiece. Maybe masterpiece is a little bit of a stretch, but I enjoyed it a lot as a kid. It consistently kept me on my toes, had a really cool and captivating villain. Far Cry was kind of known for this, and was just super fun. It really knew what it wanted to be and just really embraced that. You can get Far Cry 4 for 90% off for $2.99, Far Cry 4 Gold for 90% off for $5.99, or just get the Far Cry franchise bundle, which is 81% off for $47.84. If you asked a bunch of people what they believe should be required gaming, Bioshock will come up a lot, and it's for very good reason. It has super fun and satisfying first-person shooter gameplay, really fun and satisfying weapons, but it has this interesting magic system. Okay, it's not actually magic, but the way that it functions gameplay-wise is akin to magic, and you get a bunch of really cool abilities. But what really makes Bioshock memorable, the settings. Rapture and Columbia. These are two of the most iconic and legendary locations in gaming history. They do a great job of introducing you to both of these locations and just expanding on them and the interesting storylines that take place in these locations. Rapture being a giant city built under the water, and Columbia being a giant city up in the clouds. I played Bioshock Infinite so much as a kid, and it's so dang fun. And you may even be familiar with Elizabeth as a character. She really made the rounds back in the day. There's a reason people have wanted this franchise to be continued so much in recent years, because so many people have fond memories of just being able to summon a bunch of birds or bees to kill enemies, having super satisfying gunplay and a great story attached to all of it. These are worlds that will stick with you for years to come. Bioshock Infinite is 75% off for $7.49, but you can just get Bioshock the Collection, and that is 80% off for $11.99. I recently played Chrono Trigger for the very first time, and I understand the hype. This game is truly a great JRPG, and for me, one of the best reasons for that is the pacing. It's so dang tight from start to finish, it just doesn't let up. There's no real slow parts to this. But the other great element to Chrono Trigger is it's not a long game. It's not going to run you hundreds of hours for one playthrough. I mean, if you just want to walk around the open world, I guess you can, but one playthrough won't take you that long. But there's a whole bunch of different endings that you can collect. So if you want to put in a whole bunch of different playthroughs, you can do that. So it's one of those games you can always just come back to and get a different ending if you want. Pair that with really good and well-designed ATB turn-based combat. If you really want to call it turn-based, varied and memorable boss fights, great music, great characters. If you want to go back and play a beloved classic, Chrono Trigger is 50% off for $7.49. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what you're gonna pick up at this Steam Summer Sale, and also leave your own recommendations for other people to be on the lookout for that maybe I didn't cover. I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And speaking of Steam, Valve just announced the prices for the Steam machine. And while they are pretty pricey, I think Valve is playing a long game here. And I think this long game will be to the benefit of all of us PC gamers. Want to find out what that long game is? Check out this video right here for more. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye, everybody. Until we meet again.